All right, so I guess we got to give a little shout out to Joe Budden. He was on the New York Times. They did a op-ed on him or whatever. It was really a puff piece. I'm going to be honest with you. I read it. There was no detail, no journalism, no in-depth research. They didn't even like mention the Rory and Mal breakup. I think it was probably like one sentence that they even brought it up.
How long was the article?
It was probably like 3 scrolls, like a little.
Yeah, it wasn't
too crazy.
So it wasn't gonna go in depth.
But no, they could have. Like to me, that was like quite literally a puff piece. There was no kind of like any kind of journalism into it. It's just talking to Joe and Ian the whole time. And they just was flexing, talking about we make $20 million a year. The cast pay $1.5 million.
That's what I was confused about because should the entire cast of like 17 should their salary not be a little bit more than 1.5 million? If the total revenue per year is 20 million, is the talent over there not being grossly underpaid?
It would seem like it because I mean, generally in a business, you would think about 25 to 35% you would expect to be allocated to the actual work. But then again, we don't know how much he's paying for the back end stuff.
No, we don't. But they said that their biggest bill, the thing that they spend the most money on in the article was the talent. So everything else they're spending less money on. Joe and Ian are literally pocketing so much profit.
Oh, for sure.
Versus the rest of them. And I know that like Joe carries the show on his back. He's the reason that everyone is there. But also like we wouldn't tune in to listen to old nigga Joe yell on the microphone by himself by the millions on a weekly basis at all.
No, the concept, like I said, they didn't even really kind of go into that, into the actual concept of the cast. How do you bring this to life? Like how that's the part where
they said they were independent contractors.
Yeah, like
which also just lets me know that like he's practicing like giving them as little as possible.
Well, it's not just
as little money, as little benefits.
Benefits is what more than anything. Not necessarily as little as possible financially, but
we already know that from the 1.5 out of the what percentage is that?
That's probably not even like 6%.
Like that's a little bit insane to me.
It's 6%.
And I would like to know if you could look it up real quick. What is the average like spend for a company to pay out their employees versus revenue? Like I would like to know.
I said generally for most companies, like a retail store, something like that, you would be like even most general companies like either 25 to like 35%.
Y'all need to unionize at the JBP. That's all I got from this article. Like that was my main thing. I was like, wow, they make so much money. And then I was listening to the show and nobody was up in arms. And I was like, what? I would be burning that condo down to the ground. You would hear the gasoline being spread. Like y'all would have to come arrest me. That's crazy.
So, and you know, he just purchased those condos too.
Yeah.
So and he was buying crazy amount of cars.
Waterfront condos in New Jersey.
Like I don't even want to hate on that because that's what I feel like it's getting to. I really just want to discuss the journalism in the op-ed because it was really just subpar with that. As I said, it didn't get into, like I said, Rory and Mal didn't get into any kind of in-depth with the cast. It didn't discuss like any of the ads. Like he did this one thing they kept saying was like, we try to have like 3 main ads at a time. And then we circulate that, which is obviously the finesse for it. We just tell people you can bid to be one of these 3 ads. And the way that we integrate you in the ad, it's kind of hard to tell what's an ad and what's not. So you don't really know if it's 2 other ads in there or if you're one of the ads. You just know you hear your product being discussed in a favorable manner. So, I mean, like I said, it was a very empty piece. I really feel bad for that journalist who wrote that. Like, to me,
Jessica Testa.
You couldn't discuss anything with anybody outside of that. That's the part that gets to me, where it's not even. You could have found confirmation from somebody outside. There was no like other source besides Joe and Ian, and then just whatever they viewed what was going on.
I mean, it's an op-ed, so.
But it did wake up a lot of conversation.
What
definitely did.
Types of conversation did it wake up other than Joseph is robbing those people up there?
So you know Brandon Jennings, we just discussed him before on the show. He's on Gil's Arena. He does the podcast with Gilbert Arenas. And he was trying to give big props to Joe in regards to, you know, the recent success and the piece that came out in the New York Times. And he said, Joe deserves it. He got rid of salt and pepper. Business started booming, and the cast is way better, man. Joe retweets that.
That's arguable.
No, but Joe then retweets that, being appreciative and whatnot. Yeah. But he claims to say he deletes his post after that because he claims he didn't see the salt and pepper part because that's dissing, Rory and Mal. Mm-hmm. And he said he didn't see that. He never would want to disrespect the son of Jake, which he was just saying, he was just dissing Mal in that moment too. But Rory responded.
What did he say?
So I'm gonna bring up because they went back and forth.
Because he's been making mad jokes about wanting Rory back. When a nigga like that make that many jokes about something like that, he's not joking. Like, he wants Rory back, and he will get rid of Ice and Ish for Rory. I petition for it.
And then this is how petty Rory is. Rory retweets what Brandon says so everybody can look on the timeline and see he started it. And then he goes, last time I seen Brandon was at Highlight Room. He went out of his way to speak to me and tell me how much he respected how I handled everything with Joe. And then he called Joe a goofy or whatever. I said, until you and Maul settle y'all issue or whatever. I'm just paraphrasing. He said he wasn't comfortable speaking to him and that, they would just settle there. He told him Brandon told him he was going to give him some merch or whatever. And then Rory was just like, my daughter, I'm not lying. His dude was on some weirdo shit. You can congratulate Joe without shitting on us, basically. Mm-hmm. Then Brandon responds.
Oh.
Like I said, it was a back and forth that they were going to. He said, for one thing, he said it like it was 10 seconds they was talking about Joe, but then he came with like a bigger post the next day. I guess Brandon, we talked about Brandon. He ain't got to get his thoughts in order. He ain't, quick on the draw with it, So he comes back the next day. He says, in 2021, Rory, when I saw you in the corner, teary-eyed, yes, I did come up to say, keep your head up. And if you wanted gear, that's what it was.
Teary-eyed is a drag.
He said, if you wanted that gear, was it? We never spoke on Maul or Joe. Don't do that. You was in the club looking for sympathy. You got a little attention. You wanted relax, buddy. So do you remember, did I tell you about why him and Maul beefing? Mm-mm. So Maul used to kind of be like a personal assistant thing to a lot of different professional athletes. Mm-hmm. And he used to work with Brandon Jennings. And I believe once he kind of started working with Joe, he just kind of left that circle with Brandon. But Brandon had purchased him like this Jesus piece that was kind of like part of the team thing. You know how guys just give you chains, be like you part of the team. And so they got into it one time, and Maul came back to the show and discussed like they falling out, and he had the Jesus piece on.
As Maul would. That's some shit Maul would definitely do. You should have known your friend.
That was so crazy, seeing him with the Jesus piece on, talking trash to Brandon, basically saying like, oh, some people just, they get out of their body and all this other stuff. Mm-hmm. Whatever it was, it just seemed like some ego stuff.
Yeah, 100% some man shit.
But I wanted to ask you this because I've been noticing a trend of when individuals kind of come at Maul and maybe they chime in and throw Rory into the side. Rory always seems to be the one going in head first, talking to the person who's like trashing. Like even when I think like Torre said something about Maul, he brought it up on the show. And that's just like, I'm kind of getting tired of the same old where somebody talk about y'all and it's just Rory being the attack dog.
You think Maul tried to come off as a real nigga so bad because he's actually not that at all and he's actually a big, big, big bucket of pussy in real life?
I don't want to believe that. But the whole like just putting the laughing emojis every time,
like you're in something much too nonchalant at this point. I don't think you can chalant.
To me, there's some people you don't have to respond to, but I feel like Brandon Jennings was somebody, the history that y'all have had together. He even went on Joe's show one time because he was supposed to wake it up on him, but he ended up leaving early for whatever reason. Y'all, it's time for that to be hashed out because he's literally always taking shots at him on Gil's Arena.
At this point, I just think Maul is a liar. I think he lies about his lifestyle. I think he lies about the type of nigga he is and how upstanding of a street nigga and the type of man that he tries to convey himself as. I think he's lying about being a vegan because the nigga has not. I've never seen a bigger vegan in my life. And for you to have been a vegan for that long, like, are you just eating hot Cheetos? Like, I don't understand how you that big at all. I think Maul is a liar.
I can see that.
And I think Rory has attached his livelihood to this man at this point. And you can't. Rory could probably pivot one more time. He might have it in him, but I feel like Rory doesn't have. I feel like Rory doesn't have the energy to pivot anymore. So he's like, let me just defend our brand every time it comes into attack.
But it has to wear on Rory, because I can only imagine if I'm the only one who is reacting and putting myself out there, getting put onto the blogs, having people having like this, having conversations about, like, if I'm always the one who's the center of that, like, how do I know you got my back in these situations? Or what does it even mean, your place in this, if you can't defend people who are coming at you? Like, that main thing, if you listen to Brandon's tweets,
I think Rory's
going at them.
I think Rory probably knows that Maul generally has his back because they both left Joe together. And to my understanding, it was Rory first and then Maul following Rory, right?
It was more Rory brought the actual...
Rory woke it up because he's not pussy.
Yeah, he woke...
And then Maul followed him because Maul's a big bucket of pussy.
No, it's not. It was more so... Well, you could see it that perspective. It was more so... Rory put the idea out there in regards to what potentially could be happening. And when Maul caught wind of how egregious the claims were, that's what kind of pushed him to like, no, this is what we do.
Caught wind when you was a part of the whole thing in the first place is crazy. But like, he was not paying attention.
Yeah, he said that it wasn't until it got to that point. Granted, you have my lawyers are doing my lawyer thing, so I'm not really worried about that. So I can see once it got to a point where, dang, we not getting no headway. My lawyer keeps telling me we not getting no headway. Now I'm gonna explode.
Yeah, and he smoked weed. Like, if you smoke weed and you vegan, you should be much thinner, Maul. Like, I don't.
You think he should be like a stick or something?
He much thinner. And he don't work out. Like, what do you? I mean,
he might. I think Maul might forget.
This nigga big boned.
I think he may forget bread sometimes is not vegan.
Yeah, he probably just be eating hot Cheeto sandwiches for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Like, it's like be eating fries and Beyond chicken nuggets. It's processed. Maul, just eat a steak.